Good morning. My name is Christopher Hurst, and welcome to the Primes Roundtable. This is our big concluding event to the year of Primes, which we've been excited to be a part of all year. I have with me a series of important guests that are going to help us talk through some of the issues that we talked about throughout the year. And I'd like to first welcome to our table our principal here at DeMatha, Dr. Daniel McMahon.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst, very much.
Well, thank you for being here. I'd first like to thank you for being such a vocal supporter of this project. As a principal, your time and your energy are so limited. What was it about the year of Primes that made it worth it, that made it a desirable project to be a part of?
Well, I think that one of the important things that we do is I hope that we can see all the academic subjects as worthy of pursuit, not just in the classroom, but even outside of the classroom, and that we can find things that allow us to explore our interests and our passions, and to keep that dialogue going outside of traditionally assigned things. As you know, the origin of this particular project started at a Christmas party that you and I were at together 2 years ago now. We started thinking about what prime numbers do and mean, and how we might incorporate them throughout a whole year of triple prime numbers.
Mm-hmm. And that brings up an interesting point. It's hard. It's hard to highlight academics in such a way. It's difficult to make public some of the interesting things that we do on a daily basis in the academic sphere. Could you just talk for a couple of moments about how this project was able to make public such an important element of our school?
Yes, I hope this is a thing that as a school that we're committed to, and we're going to be fortunate today to hear from Ms. Sophia Flynn from Georgetown Visitation. A few years ago, the Archdiocese of Washington High Schools decided to create a forum for students to do presentations, because you're right, highlighting academics is not a particularly simple thing to do, but we've found enormous success in that, and I think that these kinds of projects have been really wonderful. I think what made this project even more interesting is we're able to do this broadcast in a way celebrating another part of our academic interest, which is our video production group is also helping us here. So it's really been terrific, multidisciplinary.
Absolutely. It's been fun for me to be a part of. It's been a cool project, both in the planning of it and in the execution.
Yeah.
So you were an active participant along the way. You helped write a lot of the scripts, and you were certainly kind of dove into the prime numbers aspect of things. What's the most interesting fact that you learned this year about prime numbers?
How much I don't understand about prime numbers, even though they seem to be easy to define, I think is one thing. I'm not sure if you're going to talk about it later, but the use of prime numbers to use engine turning screws so that they don't wear out as quickly seems amazing to me. I'm very interested in primes and encryption. I think Mersenne primes are particularly interesting. But I suppose that one of the things that really intrigues me is that prime numbers are also philosophical. That is, you can define them, but what makes them all the same, divisible only by one in themselves, that still makes them unique. They cannot replace each other. And that just seems to me, it's a little bit like the philosophical problem of, can you have a set of all sets? And I think that those sorts of things cause us to really think and wonder. And I suppose I think of prime numbers as the building blocks of the universe, because they're not reducible.
It's really, so like atoms.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So this has been a really fun project to be a part of. Any future projects? I might have heard some rumblings about 2021.
Yes, I think that in 2021, an interesting thing to do might be to talk about all the ways in which the card game, particularly blackjack, gets used. That would be a good mathematical project. But I was wondering, maybe we could come back in 2020 and talk about optics, vision, light, all those sorts of things. 2020 being the year of perfect vision.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
and
you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you for your
Hurst.
support this year.
You bet.
I'd like to now turn to Ms. Sophia Flynn, who is visiting us from Georgetown Visitation. Ms. Flynn gave a presentation at the academic symposium that Dr. McMahon mentioned, and her symposium paper was on RSA encryption. So, Ms. Flynn, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Traveling over here to DeMatha today. I really appreciate you being a part of this. Tell me about RSA encryption. What is it? How did you become interested in this topic?
Well, RSA encryption is a type of encryption that's based on the difficulty of factoring large semi-prime numbers. Essentially, a large semi-prime number is a product of two prime numbers. So its difficulty in factoring that is what really forms the cornerstone of RSA encryption. I became interested in RSA encryption in my freshman year geometry class. We had quarter projects to do each quarter, but the last one we could pick our own. And on a list of topics to choose from was encryption, and I had no idea what math had to do with encryption. So I decided to explore it, and the rest is history from there.
That's really, really interesting. It's cool how those projects kind of bloom into
Yes.
into a professional interest. Now, in your presentation, one of the things that you mentioned was that you wanted to extend the project beyond the symposium to teaching others what you had learned and creating these explanatory videos. How's that part of the project going?
It's gone very well. Over the summer, I created a series of 4 YouTube videos that essentially just went through the process of computing the RSA encryption algorithm and explained it to people in a way that I hope was easy to understand. And I incorporated those into the app that I created and published the app to the Google Play Store this summer.
That's great. Is there an easy way for our viewers to take a look at these videos to support your work?
Yes, of course. Just type Sophia Flynn into YouTube, and that should bring up all of my videos.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Now, what was the most interesting thing that you learned in your research on RSA? Is there anything that surprised you?
Yes, so I was incredibly surprised, like, what simple ideas RSA encryption is built on. How just it's based on the difficulty of factoring large semi-prime numbers, or the discrete logarithm problem. How Ron Rivest, Adi Shamir, and Leonard Edelman took these really simple concepts but applied them to create this incredible algorithm that keeps so much of our information secure today. It's absolutely incredible.
That is really cool. And it's really cool that you've sort of built this around that as a high school student. Clearly, prime numbers, mathematics, applied mathematics, these are passions of yours. Do you have plans for pursuing mathematics in the future?
I would love to pursue mathematics in the future. I'd love to grow up and become a mathematician.
That's great. That's great for me to hear. So, I would like to, first of all, thank you very much for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. So I'd like to turn now to Mr. Kelly Lama, who is the department chair for mathematics here at DeMatha. Mr. Lama, thank you so much for being here and being a part of this.
Chris, thanks for all your terrific and positive energy into this project. I mean, this was a big undertaking, and it's come off really terrific. I've heard lots of great things within the school about the different videos, and we really appreciate all the energy you've put into it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, as the chair of the mathematics department, you, on a daily basis, communicate the beauty as well as the usefulness of these mathematics ideas.
Sure.
Why should people care about things like vertical angles and quadratic functions and prime numbers?
I think one of the most attractive things about the discipline of mathematics, whether you're an English teacher like our principal who's intrigued by the different patterns of numbers or statistics, or if you're an artist and you're interested in geometry and the symmetry of cube art, or a sociologist who wants to relate human behavior with, let's say, smartphone use, or even an engineer who just wants to better design the interior of a car. Mathematics actually plays the background music to all of those subjects. And to me, it's just fascinating that you can use such a powerful tool to do so many different things, to visual art, to helping make society better with important human behavior decisions, or just discussing patterns in numbers, and specifically with prime numbers. That is such a, on the surface, seems like such a simple idea. However, like anything in mathematics, there's such a deeper story behind some of the most simple ideas, like you were just referring to, vertical angles or quadratic functions and so on.
So even above and beyond, like using these ideas to accomplish goals, it's the undercurrent. I like how you said it's the background music to a lot of these more complex and beautiful ideas. I love the way that you said that. So we were able to explore this idea of prime numbers throughout the entire year, and you and I know what exploring those ideas in an advanced mathematics setting looks like. I'm curious if you have some words of wisdom for students of ours that might want to pursue mathematics in the future. What's in store for them? What does college advanced mathematics look like?
Wow. That's a simple question with kind of it's a challenging answer, really, because it really depends, I think, on your field of study. I was a secondary education major, so I was sitting next to engineers and computer scientists and statisticians, and it was a broad group of people. So in terms of the different students you're around lots of different people engaged in lots of different types of study, even economics. We had social science majors in all my math classes that I was engaged in. So you get to meet and discuss lots of different types of topics with lots of different types of students. So it's not, there shouldn't be this, I don't know, stigma that if you're a math major, you're going to be only with math students, and that's just not true. So you meet a broad type of, I don't know, college student. And then deeper into that, in terms of topics and the types of things you study, I found the most interesting some of the theory. For example, my number theory class. I never thought that that could possibly be something that I would really be interested in. It was very challenging, but it exposed me to the beautifulness of prime numbers. And so I was exposed to lots of things that I had no idea existed when I was a high school math student. And this might seem trivial, but I never thought that I would be writing pages of paragraphs of proofs. And so many students think math is just about numbers and equal signs and variables. And I found myself writing in blue books, writing paragraphs, and it really taught me how to think. And I think that's one of the things I was most grateful about being a secondary ed math major. Was I was doing more than just breaking down an equation.
And that corresponds so nicely with this idea that math is diverse across a bunch of fields, and that it not only represents utility but also beauty as well.
Absolutely.
So this project felt unique, right? I don't think that any other school across the country was diving as deeply into prime numbers and the primeness of the number 2017. And I think that a lot of the reason why we were able to pull this off is because of the culture of excellence that you have built into this department. So what I want to do is I want to ask you to speak perhaps to potential DeMatha students, middle schoolers, their families. What is it about the DeMatha math department that makes it special, that makes it an exciting part of what we do here? What can they take away from this year of primes?
It's a good question. I'm probably going to be reiterating some of the, I guess, educational, philosophical points that Dr. McMahon mentioned earlier. But one of the great things about teaching at DeMatha is not only do we have a solid and rigorous program, it's been well established for years, our administration gives us the academic freedom to explore different things outside of a textbook. And if we choose to not work within a textbook, we have the ability and the professional trust to be able to explore new and fresh ideas. And if that means integrating technology, so be it. No one's going to stand in your way if you have a good idea. And as long as we're teaching our young men how to think, how to explore, how to build an argument, it doesn't have to come from the textbook. And I think that that's one of the great things, at least in terms of being a professional here at DeMatha. You have that freedom to be able to express yourself and teach your subject in the way that you see most effective. And I think if a parent of an incoming freshman or any incoming student, whether it's 7th grade or 8th grader coming up, I think they would expect to see teachers that really care about their subject and are very passionate, like yourself. I mean, you are clearly one of our most passionate math teachers, and it shows in such a project.
Well, thank you. That's very generous. So, Mr. Lama, to close things off, do you have a favorite prime fact from this year?
That's a dangerous question because, it could, my principal, it could be one of his, it could be any one of my colleagues or former colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
It could, so I got to be careful here, but honestly, one of the things that I pulled or value most from when I was studying in college was my number theory class. And I thought it was incredibly fascinating that within the first 2 weeks we were doing basic division, and they were basically showing us how complex this can get and how valuable it can be, just doing modular arithmetic and division and using prime numbers, and how that matters so much in our world that's advancing technologically. I think that's so. Some of the last couple of videos that all involved RSA encryption were probably my most favorites.
Yeah, I thought those were pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lama. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Such a central part of what we do.
Well, thank you for being so diligent and patient and putting all this great positive energy into such a great project. Thanks again.
Thank you. I'd like to now turn to our director, Mr. Corey Puffett. Mr. Puffett has been behind the camera for all of the videos that you've seen throughout the year, has done just a phenomenal job. So first, Mr. Puffett, thank you very much for being here, being on the other side of the camera for a couple of moments. I do want to publicly thank you because I feel like so much of the value of this project came from the production values. And you and our technical director, Greg Wilson, were such an integral part, and our director today, Mr. Matt Revkin, were such an integral part of the work that we were able to put in the public. And so I just really wanted to make sure that you got the credit that you deserved. And so thank you very much for the work that you did there.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this. I mean, this was a really exciting project to be able to help produce and direct.
Well, that's excellent. And speaking of, you did get to be such a central part of this project, but you yourself are an English teacher. What drew you to such a mathematically centered project?
So there were several things that drew me to the project. One of the big ones isn't even necessarily math related, but the fact that we were taking something that at one point was just going to be, we were going to tweet out these prime facts and just type them in and send them out, but then we decided that we're going to take this idea and we're going to turn it into a video project where we're going to have the students and the faculty actually deliver these facts about prime numbers. So that kind of gave me an opportunity to step in and help out because I was working with Matt Revkin with the video broadcast journalism class, to kind of take some of my experience in college and with that class to help produce those videos. The fact that I was an intern last year and I was looking for any and every way that I could be a part of anything around the school to make myself more valuable to the school, more valuable to the community. to give myself a better chance to get a full-time job, which I did.
Right.
And then on top of that, my mother is actually the co-chair of the math department at Elizabeth Seton High School.
Right.
And I was homeschooled all the way through 8th grade by her. So I had a very strong math base throughout my life. So I've always been interested in numbers. And so the opportunity to help produce, but while doing so, learn all these facts about prime numbers really intrigued me.
It's pretty cool, and man, it's just been a really fantastic opportunity for all of us, right, to get this out into the public like this. And you mentioned this before, but our original intent was to just tweet out the prime facts, like type them out and have them sent out on those triple prime days. And you were such a force in recommending that we could go beyond that. We could do better than that. We could tweet out videos of people reading these facts and participating in that. And I really think that was just such an inspired choice. Could you speak a little bit about the role of video and social media, especially at being able to make this such a public success?
I think that videos tend to capture people's attention a little bit more than just the words. You can sit on Twitter all day, and if something doesn't capture your attention, then you're just going to kind of skip over it. If the first 2 or 3 words of a tweet don't already kind of start to get to the point, you have to be so efficient with your wording, and that can be difficult to do, and especially on a topic that some people need to be drawn into before they become interested. Prime numbers, people think that they know what it is. It's a number that's only divisible by 1 in itself. And that's all that some people think they need to know about it. So they may not have necessarily been drawn into just textual tweets. So the idea of being able to bring in some videos, but keeping them short enough that nobody is losing, we're not losing their attention, I thought that would be a good way to try and expand on the project and help it reach a little bit wider of an audience.
I also think it was an inspired choice to include students, especially the class of 2017, representing that number 2017 in its primeness. So thank you again for all of that. So just to wrap things up here, do you have a favorite prime fact?
I really enjoyed all the number theory tweets that were earlier in the year, but I think the last several tweets that came out in November, it kind of started with Mary Catherine Strickland, who's in our Academic Support Center, bringing up the idea that they are useful in various parts of life. Mary Yerish, one of our former math teachers, who I was fortunate to have for 2 years, she brought up the idea of the gears having prime numbered teeth so that they mesh less frequently, helping with damage and noise reduction. And then Tom Ponton, our director of development, had the fact about cicadas and how their life cycles are prime numbered years. And I thought that was so interesting because, things evolve and adapt in such a way for more efficiency, and that allows for better food disbursement. And I just found it really fascinating that it's not just that we can use them, but nature does use them naturally.
I completely agree with you. I find that cicadas fact just absolutely fascinating. So, Mr. Puffett, thank you very much for being such a central part of this. So, thank you again. And so, that wraps up our Year of Primes. I want to thank everybody who's been such a central part of what has been just a fascinating project for me, for our department, for our school. Prime numbers. Prime numbers are the atoms of number theory, and it's fascinating to think about them and to study them, from cicadas and jet engines to the Ashango bone, Mersenne primes, Vinogradov's theorem, Terry Tao, possibly today's greatest living mathematician, Walsun's son. We've had an opportunity to explore just a little bit of this vast and beautiful corner of mathematics. But there's always more. There's always more to think about, more to discover, and I hope that we've had the opportunity to inspire you to look beyond just these 52 facts and see for yourself just how primes can make an impact into the way that you think about the world, or perhaps maybe how you can do something differently in a prime way. I'd like to conclude the Year of Primes once again by thanking everybody who's been a part of it, but most especially you, who's been following along all year. I'm Christopher Hurst. It's been a joy to be on this journey with you. Thank you. God bless. Keep it prime.